Hello everyone. Hopefully those of you who clicked on the video will enjoy it, as well. I kind of decided to go back to the roots with this one, with how I've always been good with writing and playing the villains. I figured why not go back to it for old time's sake. Plus I always did like Cinder fall from, the first 3 volumes. Mostly because she was very manipulative and very strategic when she, needed to be. Not like the, current power-hungry and, psychopathic Cinder we have with the newer volumes. So, yeah. You guys can already tell that this one will be mostly using, Volume 1, 2s, and 3's Cinder's personality. So if you guys enjoy, the newer volumes with Cinder's newer personality, I'm not going to be rude, but I will ask you to please leave, as I can guarantee you will not like how I'm going to portray Cinder in any way in this one. As I won't have her going down, the path of a Season 1 Shigaraki. So, yeah. But for those of you who do enjoy, that Cinder's personality, you are very much welcome to stay and comment within, the video. After all comments are valid in my opinion. But yeah. Also, I would like to thank Raven for listening to this idea when I came up with it. As I don't exactly have Matthew until, a certain day is when he will be free to come back and, help with what ifs. Also, Matthew, if you are watching this video, I hope you pass, your driver's exam. So, yeah. With everything out of the way now, let's, start the video. I should say the what if. As we cut to, Inko. As we can see her in a maid's outfit, cleaning, a mansion that she works at. As Inko is also a, observer for, the master of this place. Along with, a scout for him as well. As we can recognize, a certain teleporting man teleport through one of his portals behind her, simply coughing into, his seemingly, void-like hand, with his yellow glowing eyes. As Inko would stop what she's doing and simply smile, saying, "Ah, Kirigiri, what is it that the master requires this time?" As she says politely, like she was taught by her mother before her. As it has always been, her family's duty to, help out around the mansion, as butlers or maids, or as, foot soldiers for the master. As Kirigiri would simply say, The Master would like to speak with you. He read your reports, and he's intrigued why you, find this certain girl so interesting. As Inko just nods with a smile, saying, "Very well. I'm assuming the Master wants to see me immediately," with Kirigiri just nodding. As Inko would, put her duster away in, a hidden compartment within the wall. As she would nod at Kirigiri, saying, "I'm ready to meet the Master now, Mr. Kirigiri." As Kirigiri would nod at that, opening a portal and, letting her go in first. As we hear Kirigiri simply say with a, gentleman's tone, "Ladies first, Miss Inko." As Inko would smile and start to go to walk through, as she says, "Thank you." As she ends in, a office. As we can see, a man at a desk with monitors all around him and behind him. As we can see, a few factories and a few places that, the man has, invested in for certain projects. As we can see, the future bar of the League of Villains as well. As we just see as a normal bar. As the man would, straighten himself up, as we would get to see his face. As we can see, the man has, silver hair and, piercing red eyes. As we can see, the man is smiling, but his eyes are not. As the man says in, a tone not meant for argument or discussion, "Please, sit down, Miss Inko." As Inko would nod and sit down, like her master told her to. As the monitors in, behind him would go into the wall, as a big one would come, behind him out of the ceiling. As something would pop on the screen. A medical document of, a young girl. As we can see the name Izumi Fall. Along with, her date of birth, medical, conditions and records, and everything else under the sun when it comes to, the girl. You have, piqued my interest. Your family has, always given me results, Miss Inko. After all, it was your mother and father who, found Nana's son. And you have, well, found me a very interesting person. Indeed. The daughter of, well, Endeavor. Now, I'm sure you are, well, wondering, how could this be? As Inko's master would, well, give a sign that Inko could, well, talk. As she simply says, I have already done my own digging, master. And I know the reason how this can be. As the man would simply nod, allowing her to, well, go on. To, well, explain what she knows, or what she thinks she knows. As she just simply says that the girl on the screen is the illegitimate child of, well, the hero Endeavor, named Enji Todoroki. As she would go on to, well, explain that, well, the girl's mother was, well, an agent at, well, his hero organization. As before Inko could go any further, the man would stop her, as he would say, "You're only partially correct, Miss Inko. In truth, the woman that you live near was actually secretly married to, well, Endeavor, but was, well, disposed of by Endeavor due to, well, his family already having an arranged marriage with, well, a certain ice family." As a picture of Ray would appear on, well, the left side of the screen. As the man would continue, saying, after, well, Endeavor found out that the arranged marriage would never be called off, from what I was able to gather, due to, well, records, he, well, called off, well, their marriage. Leaving the woman with, well, their recently born child. You were correct, though, that the woman was originally from, well, Endeavor's organization. As the man would continue on with some other details, as he would finally get down to, well, important business. As his smile disappears, as he simply tells Inko Now, what is the true reason you have brought this girl to my attention? And do not think you can lie to me. As Inko would simply say without fear towards her master. As she would sigh, getting a sad look on her face, saying, I haven't seen the girl leave that house for 2 whole years, sir. And the woman acts like she doesn't exist. I'm afraid something bad happened to her. As she also explains how many times she asked how the child was doing. As Inko always had, a good relationship with the daughter of, that woman. As the more that, the man was told, the more the man went through his own memories. Memories that he would, hold on to keep in the forefront of his mind, hoping that, what's going on with this girl was not the same thing that happened to him. As he just thinks to himself, only God knows how many true children are, mistreated these days, simply due to, quirks or, problems due to marriages. As he's hoping it's none of those. As the man simply, nods to, Inko, simply saying, I'll contact you if I decide to do anything about it. I release you to go back to your duties, maid. As the politeness from, the man's tones are, is all gone. As Kirigiri would open a portal for, Miss Inko, as Inko would walk through and go back to her duties. As All For One, as we now know, is simply, looking at the screen behind his desk, having his chair fully turned around, as he's just looking at, the photo of the smiling girl. As he sees, the fire burning behind those eyes. Those golden orbs. As the tapping from, his fingers against his arm rest on his chair would suddenly stop, bring the room to, a deathly quiet, as he just simply says, in a very determined but deadly tone, Kirigiri, I want you to find the exact locations within the house. I don't care how you get them, but I want it found. The whole layout of that place. Do I make myself clear? Kirigiri. With Kurogiri simply bowing and saying, "Of course, master, it will be done." As Kurogiri would open the portal and walk out. As All For One would simply, pull out a photo from his desk drawer. A very old photo. A photo of, happier times. Times when he wasn't the number one villain. Times when he was just a little boy and his parents still loved him. As he can see, his little baby brother as well. As he simply says, "I will not let another suffer, the trials that I did." I will fix this world, even if the history books label me as a villain. As he puts, the picture back in his drawer. Getting up from his chair and turning off all of his monsters and, putting most of them away except for the ones on his desk. With the ceiling one slowly starting to, go back into the ceiling. As we go to, the house of the little girl. As we can see, the little girl is, down in a dark room. Malnourished. Given just enough food to, survive. As the little girl is, simply remembering, happier times. Times where her mother would look upon her with a smile. Times where, her mother didn't see her as a monster, or the monster of a child, or the child to a monster, as she put it. As she simply rubs, her back, where, her mother left something for her. As she winces in pain, as not long ago, her mother managed to get, a tattoo gun. As she is never able to see what her mother gave her. As the little girl just simply hears, something, collapse to the floor upstairs. As a portal opens up in front of her. As a man who looks like he's on fire, but purple flames instead with yellow eyes that look like they have a bit of a spark. As she doesn't know, what the man's expression is, but she can tell by, the widening of, well, the eyes that the man does not like what he sees of her. As she closes her eyes and begins to cry. As she passes out due to, well, lack of water. As we cut back in time by a wee bit. As a portal opens within the house. As it's been, well, a week since All For One decide to, well, take care of this personally. As All For One is, well, steps through the portal. As Kirigiri follows suit with him. As we can see, well, All For One simply look at, well, Kirigiri saying, find the basement. And if you find the girl, make sure no harm comes to her. As Kirigiri just simply nods, saying, as you wish, master. And, well, going for the house. As a door would open not too, well, far down the hallway, with a woman with, well, brunette hair, walking out. As she, well, stares at him with narrow eyes, conjuring, well, I wouldn't say conjuring, but using her quirk. As she pulls out, well, a lighter, turning it on, and, well, using it to make more fire, as she, well, makes a whip out of it. As she goes to launch it at, well, All For One, as she knows by, well, documents that this is one of the heads of the underworld. If she can take him down, she can, well, beat Endeavor's ranking in the hero organizations. She would be the number 2 hero, not him. As All For One simply stops time for her. As All For One just simply walks over. As the still fire whip in the air, launching towards where he once was. As he can see the eyes of the woman slowly following him. As he simply walks over, grabs her by the head, and takes her quirk. As once he turns off, well, the time area quirk he has, she collapses to the ground at once, foaming from the side of the mouth. As she's twitching. As all he does is shake his head, thinking how foolish the woman was, thinking that she could take him. Him, who every, well, number 1 hero and user One For All fears. As all he does is, well, simply use one of his other quirks that he has collected over the times. As all he does is use, well, a quirk that he likes to call Touch of Everlasting Sleep, as the quirk that which he is using basically puts somebody to sleep until he decides that they can wake, as the twitching would, well, stop. The only thing happening is, well, the woman breathing, with her eyes, well, closing ever so slowly. As the portal would open up, well, beside All For One, as All For One would simply look at, well, the state of the child, as he just simply, well, growls, looking at the, well, woman who's still a hero, as it just allows him to know that what he's doing is right in his books. That scum like this doesn't deserve to live. That the title of, well, the modern day heroes are nothing but lies. Lies and just power-hungry people. And people call him the monster, as he simply tells Kirigiri, "Go. Get her to the infirmary in, well, the mansion. Make sure that she's taken care of well. I have, well, some things to do here." As Kirigiri just nods, saying, "When shall I open a portal for you, sir?" As All For One just simply looks at him. "Send one for me in 5 minutes. That's all. That's as much time as it will take for me." As he's barely trying to keep the rage and anger out of his voice. As Kirigiri just nods, saying, "As you wish, master," as he teleports off with the young girl. As All For One simply, well, looks at, well, the unconscious woman, saying, "I would rather prefer you to be, well, fully awake when you're burning with your damn home, witch." But, as he says with less anger in his tone, "You did technically do your job as a parent, even if you did it as a shit parent." As he would walk off, turning off, well, all the fire detectors, taking them apart, and, well, getting rid of them. Along with, well, cutting wire and, well, the telephone line to this specific house. As he has already done, well, everything in his power to destroy all records of, well, the child of this person. As the girl technically no longer exists. Only exists to those who knew of her beforehand, in memory. As once All For One does everything he needs to, he starts, well, walking around the house, simply, well, snapping his fingers, as a flame would appear on the end of it. A white flame, as he simply touches the walls of the home and slowly walks through the hallway. As A portal opens up in front of him as he cuts off the flame, looking behind him to see, the fire is already engulfing the house in, a rapid rate. As he can already, smell the burning of the woman's flesh. As his stomach wants to vomit, but he remains strong. As he watches, her whole body become engulfed. As he nods to himself at that point, and finally walks through the portal. As the portal closes behind him. As we cut to, the mansion. As we can see, Kirigiri, Dr. Ojiko, and, his maid, Inko, as they, see All For One step through, the portal, as Dr. Ojiko adjusts his goggles, saying, "Welcome back, sir. And I have already done my analysis on the girl. She is, weak, but is in stable condition. The only thing that, we might have problems with is, her mental abilities. I have not been able to do a psychiatric evaluation on the young one yet. I won't be able to until she wakes up, sir." As All For One simply looks at, his doctor and says, "That is alright, Ojiko. Just make sure that girl survives." As he simply looks at, Inko and Kirigiri, as he looks at Inko personally, saying, "Miss Inko, I know you haven't been able to, find a man of your own. So, I will give you the privilege of, being this child's guardian. So that way, the world doesn't get suspicious. I have already done, work, buying an orphanage and, planting fake documents of the girl's existence there, with a new name and all. The story is, you went there and you adopted the girl. Do I make myself clear?" As Inko just nods, saying, "It will be done, if that's how you need it to be." As he nods, as he looks at Kirigiri, saying, "And you, I want you to make sure that she is safe at all times, Kirigiri. If something tries to harm her, deliver them to Dr. Ochiko for, allowing themselves to be test subjects." As Kirigiri nods, as Dr. Ochiko just smiles at, his client and his friend, as he just simply says, "Thank you. Thank you, all for one. The last one expired all too soon. I have no doubt that this girl will bring in more, well, volunteers for me. As he just, well, nods at that to, well, Dr. Ojiko. As all for one heads to, well, the infirmary of, well, his mansion. As he simply, well, looks at the girl in the bed when he gets there. As this is where I'm going to be ending it, everyone. Yes, I know, I made, well, everyone out of the League of Villains so far to be, well, decent people. And don't worry, a lot of things will go back to normal. But for now, this is how I have All for One being in this What If, along with the, well, rest. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed this part. But yeah. I might use, well, some of your guys' OCs that you guys put down in, well, the OC channel in my Discord server for this particular What If. I just need to figure out which one of your guys' OCs would be, well, best for it. And as I always say, if you're going to put, well, OC down, please please put down which What If you would prefer that OC to be in. With that out of the way, I will do my usual. Don't forget to, well, comments down in the comment sections and, well, look at the description so you can join our Discord server. Also, if you are, well, new to the channel and just new to, well, my form of What Ifs, and if you enjoy them, don't forget to, well, subscribe and also comment as well, as your comments are always, well, appreciated, as if they are insulting, they do give me a good, well, chuckle. So on that note, bye everyone, and, well, toodles.